We're back.
Hey, so what are we doing today, Truett?
We're installing the Nano controller.
We are. So a local guy who lives close to us has actually bought a Nano controller, so we're lucky enough to review it and not actually purchase it ourselves for a change, which is awesome. So it's rated for 210 DC amps and a little over 500 phase amps. So this is an awesome bit of kit for a stock Sur Ron motor, and it's very comparable to something like a BAC 4000, but just, yeah, much cheaper basically.
Cheaper and better made. Yeah, she's a lot nicer than what a BAC is.
To be honest, like all the KO stuff we've seen is like super high quality. It's fit for the purpose, like, and it's actually designed to fit on the bike. I suppose one of the nicer things is basically the IP rating on this is actually has an IP rating. Like me and Truett have experienced lots of issues with the BAC 4000 before, with water getting into it, same with the 8000. You can still ride it in wet conditions, but at least you know this thing's actually designed for it and actually has a rating. How do you rate the look of it, Truett?
Looks quite sexy to me. Yeah, I like these little blingy, knobby thingies, whatever the heck.
Yep. Every bloke loves a good knob.
Yeah,
yep.
Little black knobs on there. I'm into that. I'm into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not Tuesday, but I'm into that.
Not Tuesday.
Yeah.
For Wednesday, it'd be a different day. So yeah, we're going to show you how to fit this. We're going to tune it, and we'll also share that tune file with you just in case you're having trouble with your Nano yourself.
So let's install it on this stock Sur Ron that we've been kindly provided.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Woo.
Just wish you knew.
Okay, so step one is obviously remove your controller. I'm guessing that's pretty explanatory for most people, but basically just start undoing the screws and you should be able to make the controller come off. So you've got 2 screws here that hold it on, and you've also got 2 plastic screws, and you also have 2 top fixings as well. You will need to remove this lower bash guard, at least hang it down, so we'll take off the stand in a second and do that, and that's just so we can get to the phase wires. Make sure before you do this that you disconnect your battery, you remove all power from the controller. You just don't want to have any kind of sparks, or you don't want to burn anything out. Another little trick too, if you want to make sure everything's obviously discharged, is just turn the bike on. The headlight will come on for a second and that'll discharge the capacitors. You'll physically see the little USB outlet here that no one uses. You'll see that light up blue for a second and then that light will diminish. That means you're then safe to then take that controller off so you don't blow yourself up or anything on the bike. Cool, so once you've put all your screws, this should just kind of come out forward, nice and easy. So we're gonna have to obviously get up to this wiring harness in a sec, but the first thing we're gonna do is kind of disconnect the motor, disconnect the DC wires here, and then we'll work on this top section. Okay, so once you've unbolted your controller, what we're going to do is undo a screw here and a screw on the other side. We have to also undo this top section as well where the key goes. Basically, we can then follow this harness up and we can physically unplug it. These things are the worst thing you ever get off in your life. So if you enjoy a really annoying time, then this part of the job is for you. So there's one. Woo! That took 2 minutes. Okay, so once you've removed the most annoying thing to man, which are the little C-clips to go here and here, basically just want to push these out. Then you're like every woman you want, you're topless. Cool. So once you've pulled this part, just pull it out of the way. Then we're going to remove the 2 screws either side, and this will basically pull this plate forward. That way we can unplug the original load. You move this section back here, and basically what this does is expose all the wiring. We're going to find where the stock loom's plugged in, and we're going to find that. We're going to pull that down. You can physically see this is the loom that we need to unplug now. Super easy. You'll notice too, up here, I've just had to unplug the horn just because that was stuck, so we'll plug that back in once we've finished everything. Okay, so now you've got your controller off. There's only really one thing that you're going to transfer over. It's basically going to be this lower plastic. There is also a top plastic, which is like a cover that sits up here. You can either fit this or not. So before we connect this, I'm going to fit this into the bike. I'm going to leave this hanging loose and then we'll come back and put the controller on. So pretty basic here. So obviously everything just fits, just don't force any plugs, just kind of give them a wiggle and get them in the right direction. After fitting a heap of ASI kits, it's actually nice to have a wiring loom that actually just plugs in just like the factory. So ASI, the plugs do fit, but you've really got to reef them in and they don't, they do click in, but not the same as that. That feels like a factory fit, which is awesome. So yeah, nice to see. So then basically we're just going to push those original connectors back up, and then we can basically push this plate forward, and we can fit it with this afterwards. So this is probably one of the hardest parts really, is just making all the factory wiring fit back in as it was. Sur Ron must be really good at packing things into a small cavity because they do an awesome job of fitting everything in there. So don't do anything up tight, just put it in loosely just to hold everything in place for now. Anyone who's pulled these bikes apart multiple times will know that this plate here is really easy to bend too. So if it's not pushing back into place easy, just keep rearranging the wires and eventually this will actually lock in. So next step is now going to be plugging in the controller. To mention too is with these screws, don't do them up with a rattler. Not that KO has announced it, but I know it's happened. People have done these up with a rattle gun and they've literally broken these brass fittings off. That is a very standard thing that happens across my electrical industry. So blue to blue, green to green, yellow to yellow. And if you are completely colorblind and you can't actually see colors, the good thing is in this software, it's actually really easy to change the motor direction. So if you get these wires around the wrong way, all that will happen is the motor will spin the wrong direction. So you can actually change it in the software if you can't see colors. If you're wondering about how tight this needs to go, it has a spring washer on it that will hold tension. I normally go kind of as physically tight as I can go before the screwdriver slips. So I'm not going crazy. I'm just giving it a nice little tweak and I'm pretty happy with that. And like nothing's gonna move, so we have no hot connections. Next part is just plugging in the KO loom. Basically what we have to do here, pull back the little rubber boot that it has here. This can only go in one way. Just make sure when you plug this in, it's seated correctly. You don't want to bend any pins when you put it in either, so just be careful, put it in nice and straight. So this is your tilt sensor. There's a gap either side of this. I actually physically push that wiring to the side to keep it out of the way. So that's where you want to place it. You want to make sure your DC wires are nice and in a good position. You don't want them all folded up. So another quick one, I was trying to get this controller in. I've noticed this cable tie and where the DC loom is actually in my way. Because what happens is this part of the loom is actually pushing on here. Just want to move that off to the side. Gives us a little bit more room to play with. It's not like anything being tight, yeah. So that fits heaps better now. So now we'll just start screwing it off.
That is quick. I'm gonna need a bigger back tyre.
So first impressions.
So that was nuts.
That was nuts.
I'm gonna need a new back tyre, much bigger,
Yep.
because there's no traction on gravel now.
Good.
It's got the heart rate up.
Yeah. Does anything feel glitchy or weird, or it just feels way more powerful than what you had
Just way
before?
more powerful. That's yeah.
Awesome.
Go for a burn, man.
Go for a burn, man.
All right.
What do you think it needs? Do you think it needs a little bit more bottom end or a bit more top? What do you reckon?
Probably more top.
More top?
Yeah, I reckon about halfway.
Yep.
Yeah, she flattens out,
Okay, yep.
but my gearing might be a bit low as well, I think.
We'll just have a play, man. So
Yeah.
we'll just do some edits now.
So, Nano controller, it's in. This is Mark. He's made all this happen today. So what do you think, man?
I'm very happy. I want to get out there and rip it on your track.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Learn to rewrite again, I think. It's a completely different animal now.
Yeah, it definitely has more poke than a BAC 4000 with a 12 kilowatt churn. So we've played with the stock RPM map a bit. We might play with it a bit further with Mark just so he's happy. But yeah, just want to say a big thanks from me and Short just for making this happen.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, definitely saves us from buying the controller to review it. So, that's our review and setup. So yeah, definitely check it out and give us a like and a subscribe. Thanks for watching.
See you in the next one.
Bye. Hey, so just a quick run through the settings, what we found out with the Nano controller. So something that was pretty interesting to me straight off the bat was basically the throttle setting that we use, a throttle RSP. We'll come back to that in a sec, but these are basically the settings that we've done. So first off, max line current, we set to 200 amp. That was the most the software would let me set on the Nano controller. Max phase amps, it went to 550 amp. The threshold low, we basically raised that from 91 volts was the Sur Ron throttle reading to 0.98 volts. Threshold high, we left as the factory auto calibration. That seems to work for us. ACC sensitivity is 224. Weak RSP, we added more field weakening in this, so we went to 2. The rest of it is just basically default. Coming over to the controller parameters. So the cool thing about the new updates is most of this is preset. So where before you had to change everything, I'll run through it anyway. A lot of it's done for you, which is awesome. So brake set to invalid. Your bike sensors, you want to set to option 5, which is off. So basically you want all the bike sensors off. Gear default D, that's left as factory default. The only thing I do is I disable parking. So I've disabled parking. Follow, I've set to EABS, which was already set with this new update. Now, the really cool thing about this Eco, the throttle is I actually went with Eco instead of line. The Nano controller on Eco feels exactly like my RS motor does on line, which I kind of found interesting because I was spending heaps of time trying to tune the bike on line and I couldn't get good enough control on this bike without going to Eco. So that's the reason why the ACC sensitivity is set to 224 because I wanted all the response from Eco, where online I was just turning it down. I was getting some weird throttle feelings and yeah, Eco felt connected to the bike. So I was really impressed with how that felt. So plenty of control, plenty of punch, plenty of power. Mark, the rider we did this with, he's really good at his wheel stands and his technical stuff, so he needed a throttle that responded. So that's what we gave him, and it works really well. So the mid-speed Paris, which is your Eco button or your EP button, I just did 80% of the line current ratio and the phase amps, and I've changed the mid-speed to 12,000. So that's the full speed of the motor, so you can ride around normally on your EP mode at maximum speed, but you're just gonna have less power around. So stop back current, we set to 25 amp. Just found that was what was kind of needed for that wheelie control, and the max back current, which is basically the back torque, which applies the off feeling for the bike. We set that to 30. Really happy with how that felt. And then I suppose over to the super juicy part. We always do a motor tune, so I always recommend a motor tune and a throttle cow. This seems to make everything feel better and work better. Motor poles we've changed to 5. I've just been told that apparently this doesn't actually matter on a Sur Ron motor or the KO motor because it's the Hall sensor type it uses, where something like the Talaria, you need to make sure this is 5 because it uses an encoder. So AN I've changed to 4. And then this RPM map, so this bike runs a 64 tooth sprocket. So the first 500 to 1500 are really related around the fact that this is a completely stock Sur Ron with a Nano controller, a 72 volt and a 64 tooth sprocket. That's it. So just to get the feeling right and so it wasn't too torquey straight off the bat, we basically changed these parameters here. So if you're looking at the tunes that we generally put on YouTube, something to kind of look at as well is this first 500 to 1500 is the initial feel off the throttle that you're chasing. And then, yeah, basically you want to make this a nice even curve up to your 100s. I found with the Sur Ron motor, when we did the 20 kilowatt tune, that we really need to feed it a lot of phase amps for a long time to make it actually feel punchy. So the RS motor, you can get pretty creative in here, but with the Sur Ron motor, basically you can pretty much just slam it with everything that you can, and it'll soak it up and do it, which is kind of cool. So you can see what I've got here. Pretty much just paraboliced it off once I hit to 6,500 RPM, just come down, and yeah, that's pretty much it.